Poštovani gledalci, dobroveče. Pratite emisiju Razgovor. Moj gost je ambasador Sjedinjenih Američkih Država na Kosovo, gospodin Filip Kosnet. Your Excellency, welcome to RTK, and thank you for speaking for us.
It's my pleasure. Good morning. Dobry večer.
Thank you. So I'm going to start off with the elections. Elections for Parliament in Kosovo will be held here on 14th of February. In the time of COVID pandemic, in the time of ongoing European integrations and future agreement with Serbia. It seems that these elections are one of the most important for Kosovo. Am I wrong?
I think it is an important election for Kosovo. And I and my Quint colleagues put out a statement yesterday in which we encouraged all of the parties that are running and everybody else who is involved in holding a successful election to bring down the temperature, because things are very emotional now, and focus on the need of the people of Kosovo to have the opportunity to have their voices heard through their votes, and also the importance of the parties talking about what their policies are going to be. You know, that often is drowned out by the noise of all of the politics. But it's important that the people of Kosovo, all the people of Kosovo, understand what the parties intend to do to improve the lives of all citizens.
Yeah. So, independence of the Kosovo Central Election Commission, we saw some challenges in the verification process. Your embassy and other your embassies, the Quint embassies, were very active on that question.
I'm confident that the Central Election Commission and the other institutions are capable and prepared to ensure that there is a free, fair, safe, and peaceful election. And it must be held on schedule on February 14th, and I have no reason to think that that won't be the case. International observers, including my embassy, have a role to play before Election Day, on Election Day, and afterwards to ensure that there is a free and fair election. But the fundamental responsibility belongs to the institutions of Kosovo, the political parties, the media has an important role to play, and all the citizens to make sure that democracy is protected. You know, Marco, I should add, we've just seen in the United States a very dramatic challenge to American democracy. I mean, the most severe challenge in my lifetime. And the struggle is not over to ensure the safety of American democracy, but as President Biden said at his inauguration, democracy has prevailed. The institutions did their jobs. The Congress certified the results of our election. The courts did their job, even though there were all kinds of rumors about political pressure. Everybody did what they needed to do to protect our democracy. But it's a reminder that even for a country like the United States, which is more than 200 years old, democracy is fragile. And we all have a responsibility as citizens of our own countries to play our role to protect our democracy.
Yeah, that's for sure. So Brussels talks and then Washington agreement. We saw some progress, especially when both delegations of Kosovo and Serbia met in Washington and made an agreement. We saw also the improvements and on implementing the talks and the agreement, but still more to come. Also, one of the things that our viewers are also interested in the Association of Serbian Communities in Kosovo. What do you expect from all those processes?
So, in his confirmation hearing before the United States Senate last week, Tony Blinken, who is President Biden's nominee to be Secretary of State, said that he applauded the work that had been done under the Trump administration on Kosovo, Serbia. This is in the context of answering the question, which everybody is asking, are the Washington agreements still in effect? Does the Biden administration plan to build on the work of the previous administration? And the fundamental answer to both those questions is yes, we consider the Washington agreements in effect until some possible change possibly could be made in the future. And I expect that we will continue to build on the work that's gone before. You know, Marco, it's very important for your viewers to know that the fundamental strategic goals of the United States for Kosovo and its neighbors remain the same whether Democrats or Republicans control the government. I think we can look back at the last 20 years and agree on that. What do we want? We want peace within Kosovo, among the communities in Kosovo, and peace between Kosovo and its neighbors. We'd like to see better economic integration between Kosovo and its neighbors. We'd like to see more economic opportunity for all citizens of Kosovo, and we'd like to see a strong commitment to rule of law, to fighting corruption. Those are all things that Republicans and Democrats agree on. Now, in the weeks and months ahead, I am sure there are going to be intense discussions in Washington about the specifics of our Balkan policy. Do we want to maintain this or that initiative? Do we want to start new initiatives? And my embassy is part of that discussion. But I think that overall, people should be confident that we want to build on the successes of the past. And I think we will, however, see a greater emphasis on collaboration and coordination with the European Union and our other European friends, because that's something that President Biden has made clear.
Thank you. Special chambers of Kosovo in Hague. Ex-KLA leaders are in custody. Trial is upcoming. What is your opinion, expectations? Your embassy and yourself tried multiple times by now, saying that it's personal accusations, and the people should understand that.
Well, in the sense that we're saying that indictments have been brought, cases are being argued against individuals, not against an organization. That's right. Our view is that the court, like any properly constituted court, should be allowed to operate freely without political pressure. And I believe that the defendants who are before the court in The Hague will have the opportunity to mount a legal defense, and we'll see what happens. I'm not going to speculate on the outcome. Many citizens of Kosovo have expressed concern that the court seems to have a narrow mandate, a narrow focus. My answer to that is I think that Kosovo and the region need more justice, not less justice. Many people committed terrible crimes in this region in the 1980s and 1990s. People of various nationalities, various backgrounds. And I think that the victims and their families deserve justice. And the United States would like to see all involved governments do more to seek justice for the victims and for their families. And we'll just have to see how that evolves in the years ahead.
Let's hold on that subject. Support to the Resource Center for Missing Persons. How important is this subject for reconciliation in Kosovo?
I think it's very important. And yeah, from time to time, you will hear somebody, maybe some foreign observer, say that the people of Kosovo and Serbia and other countries that were affected by the violence should just forget the past and focus on the future. I've never said that. I will never say that. I don't think that you can move ahead towards a better future, especially a future where representatives of different communities have to truly live together as neighbors without honestly looking at the past. And that's true in my country as well. So I think it's important that members of different communities and civil society organizations as well as governments continue to try to find the truth about all of the missing persons cases. And I think this is one area where when I sit down, and my wife and I have sat down with representatives from missing persons organizations and just ordinary citizens who've lost somebody, or someone is gone and they don't know what happened to them. Yeah, it's impossible to ignore the humanitarian aspect of this. So we can't just look at this as one more agenda item in a negotiation. I mean, there's a real
above any political talks. It's a human cause.
It is, and like many issues, it transcends borders. Whether we're talking about missing persons or public health, fighting the pandemic, there's no way to make progress on these issues unless people reach out across community lines and across borders in order to try to reach a common understanding.
It is, that's true. So fighting against corruption and organized crime. Your government is providing big support to Kosovo institution to fight this very, very important step towards the European integrations, and also for the society, because society with the corruption, it cannot go any further.
That's right. My government has been supporting efforts to fight corruption for many years. We have programs that are run by the State Department, the Justice Department, U.S. Agency for International Development, and so on. And we have every intention of continuing these programs. And I think the professionalization of the police, of the judicial institutions, is one of the great success stories in Kosovo. I mean, when you ask people which institutions they have the most respect for, I think the answer is clear. Do I wish that there had been more progress between the time I left Kosovo in 2003 after my first assignment here and when I came back 2 years ago? Sure. But I think we need to continue to work on this. But let me say this also. There are some problems that you can't solve just through embassy programs and having trainers and advisors. I think that there are big problems with corruption in Kosovo, not just in terms of what I sometimes call big C corruption, people taking bribes or stealing money. I mean, that's a real problem. But as people talk about all the time, there are problems with small c corruption, cronyism, nepotism. I mean, there's a real concern, and I know this crosses community lines because I've heard it from young people from all communities, that it doesn't matter how educated you are, how well prepared you are, if you don't have the right family or community, political connections, it's very hard to get ahead. And we can't change that just by funding some programs. That is, frankly, a cultural issue that I think the people of Kosovo need to face honestly.
Okay. Also, one of the important subjects of this conversation here is the role of law and respecting court decisions. It says that for many years right now, Kosovo has a good law, has a European laws that are adopted by the Kosovo Assembly, but implementing it's still an issue. Especially, I want to ask you for we are witnessing some bad examples. Like I said, one of them is a property and land of monastery Visoki Dečani. Still, after the Constitution decision, still not implementing.
Absolutely, and I think that you've touched on some very important points. When I came back 2 years ago, people in the government would point proudly to their laws and say, we have these terrific laws for fighting corruption. And I'd say, well, those are tools. You have to use those tools. So it's great that you have these laws, but you have to use them. You mentioned the monastery at Dečan. Very timely point. I have now worked with 3 governments in Kosovo, the Haradinaj government, the Kurti government, the Hoti government. And throughout that time, I have pressed them to recognize the court decision on the property rights of the monastery, and nothing has happened. There's been a lot of talk, but no action. And if we are serious, in my country as well as in Kosovo, about respecting rule of law, that means respecting all court decisions. You don't necessarily like it. I don't agree with every court decision that I've seen in Kosovo or in my country for that matter, but we can't pick and choose which ones we like. And I think there is really no excuse for the continued failure of the government of Kosovo, several governments of Kosovo, to ignore this decision. And people say, well, we need more time, it's politically sensitive. That's not really an adequate response. Just do it. Just respect the property rights of the monastery. Now, sometimes people will come to me, citizens, and they'll say, frankly, well, why do I care about the Serbian Orthodox Church? Why do I care about their property rights? And my answer to that is twofold. First of all, it's a property rights issue. And if governments are not going to respect the property rights of some citizens, then nobody's property rights are safe. The second point is, if people are serious about building a multi-ethnic state, a religiously diverse multi-ethnic Kosovo, then they should care. They should care about everybody's rights. I know this may sound naive in some ways, but I'm an American. I come from a multi-ethnic, religiously diverse society. And when I read the Constitution of Kosovo, I see the aspiration for Kosovo to be the same sort of society. So I think for anyone in any community to say, oh, I just don't care what happens to those people, it's very unhealthy. And I say that knowing all of the history, all of the pain, all of the suspicion. But unless people are willing to treat the people who live in Kosovo not just as the other, but as their neighbors, as equals, then I don't think this country is going to make much progress.
I want to do a follow-up on that, on your answer. Do you think that many electoral processes, do you feel that we are constantly, for your assignment here, for the past 2 years, we changed 3 governments. Do you think that many of those pre-electoral processes, that we are also all the time in campaign? So the important decisions cannot be made because they're afraid for the voters.
Well, I think you could probably say that about the United States as well, that we're always in a political campaign. So I don't want to suggest that the Americans have all the answers to this. I do think that Kosovo has a vibrant democracy with many different types of political parties. I think that there are some people who would like to see even more political parties because they think that their voices are not heard. There's a vibrant media which enables people to hear different points of view and to express themselves, and also turn to the media when they have information about corruption or criminal behavior. But to answer your question about the electoral process per se, I think it would be great if the people of Kosovo and the political parties could focus more on policies than on just personalities, and try to find a way to debate, but to debate in a more, shall I say, dispassionate fashion, a more fact-based fashion. And I say that knowing full well, you could say the same thing about the United States, where emotions are very high, where politicians often are talking at each other and not really listening to each other. And we've seen the result of that. We've seen the result of people being exposed to lies for year after year after year. And I would hope the people of Kosovo, who almost everybody seems to admire the United States and pay a lot of attention to the United States, I would ask that you learn from our failures and our setbacks as well as our successes, and do everything you can, whether you're an ordinary citizen or a member of a political party or a member of an institution, to try to put the politics and the emotion aside and focus on governance and the future of the people of Kosovo.
One of the also very important subjects, I think, they're the language rights. Because when you do not respect the language rights, it follows with a different kind of disrespectful manners, and that they're including not one community but many communities. How important is for you for a Kosovo institution to fully respect Constitution, that 2 languages are here in Kosovo? I
think it's hugely important, and it's something that we talk to the government about a lot. I mean, all the governments, not just the current government. And I'm glad you raised this point, because it's something that I was concerned about when I left Kosovo in 2003. And you could see even then, let's be frank, very few members of the majority community were interested in their children learning Serbian. But also, I wasn't meeting Serbian citizens of Kosovo who were interested in their kids learning Albanian. And I think that if people are really going to live together as neighbors, they have to be able to communicate with each other. And it's not good enough to say, well, everybody will learn English or German. You really understand a lot about a culture, about the people you're speaking with, if you understand their language. So I think it's critical. And also, it's important that all citizens be able to seek services from the government in their own language. I mean, that's the law, and I know that it's not always enforced, and it needs to be. And this is one more area where I think the people of Kosovo, all the people, really have to engage and take this seriously. Because people will come to me and say, well, can't you have more language classes at the embassy or something? Yeah, there are almost 3 million people in this country. A few programs are not going to solve this problem. It has to be a commitment from the people and their elected representatives.
Okay. How do you see the role of public broadcaster in democratic society as RTK, as a national broadcaster?
I think all media, whether public or private, is critical in a democratic society. And one of the things that is a great concern about the role of media in democracies, and it's again true in the United States as well as in Kosovo, is there is a tendency, a marked tendency, for people to find an outlet that seems to reinforce their own point of view. Certainly in the United States, we've seen this. People will listen to a right-wing TV station, or they will spend a lot of time on a left-wing liberal website, and it really has hampered debate because people have their own perceptions. I mean, sometimes it seems they have their own facts, and it's very difficult to find common ground. So I can sit here and praise the role of broadcasting. It's very important. Investigative journalism is critical. Let's face it, there are citizens who don't want to come out publicly if they have some information about criminal behavior or corruption. They might not always want to go to authorities, but they should always be able to find a welcome, a reception from the media. So I want to continue to encourage the media to do investigative reporting, even when it's difficult and even when it's a little bit dangerous. And my message to the citizens of every country is, don't just settle for one point of view or one source of information. You need to get your information from different sources and judge it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador, for speaking for RTK2.
Well, it's been a great pleasure, Marco. And let me just say again that, that I have great faith in the people of Kosovo, in their desire to build a better society, to build a country where there is true economic opportunity for everybody, a country that's integrated with its neighbors. Kosovars should not feel disheartened. They can do this. People from all communities within Kosovo. It's not easy, but there's really no alternative, because if Kosovo is going to be a home for all of its citizens, we have to do the work.
Thank you very much for those kind words.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hvala.
Poštovani gledaoci, pratili ste specijalni intervju sa gospodinom Filipom Kosnetom, američkim ambasadorom na Kosovu. Hvala na pažnji. Do sljedećeg viđenja.